Hi, Weirdos! You are listening to and or watching Keep It Weird, the podcast for all things strange, extraterrestrial, ultra-terrestrial, mysterious, otherworldly, dark, eerie, bizarre, and everything in between. Each episode we sit down together from across the country and we talk about something weird. And this episode is, of course, no exception. It never is. Because we are discussing one of our absolute favorite topics, aliens. Alien life. We're getting really alien-like today. And on top of discussing one of our favorite topics, we get to have a very, very important guest on the show with us today that just brings us all the happy feels in the world. So we are going to jump into theories, new revelations, declassifieds, abductions, possible government official involvement. We're going hard. We're going in. All of the updates that you've been looking for. And we get to do it with one of our most loyal listeners of the show. So let me introduce myself first. My name is Lauren, and this is my weirdo co-host with the Mo host, Ashley.
Hi, Weirdos.
Hello, hello. And I am so stoked to intro one of our favorite weirdos, someone who has been with us from the beginning, not only talking about weirdness, but becoming our friend and support over these last few crazy years. She's a fellow spooky gal, a tarot reader, and a badass mama. We're honored she joined us today. Please welcome Justine Binx.
Hi, Weirdos. I'm so happy to be here.
We're so happy to have you.
Welcome.
Thank
Welcome,
you.
welcome.
This is very exciting, Weirdos, to have not just a listener, not just a friend, but just a spooky Canadian queen on the show.
Yeah,
I love that.
you're not only a fan of Keep It Weird and the winner of our 2024 social media Halloween contest,
That's right.
you're also a sneaky little witch.
That is true.
Sneaky little bitch.
I've come out over the past year, and it's been wonderful. There's been
Yeah.
so many spooky friends that have come my way. It's been a really positive thing.
I love that.
It's usually more positive than you can ever imagine when you
Mhm.
meet like-minded spiritual weirdos.
Mm-hmm.
It's very true.
I feel like okay, I'm not saying, here's the deal. I'm not saying don't seek therapy. Everyone should have a therapist.
For sure.
I find my spiritual conversations with my husband, with Lauren, with my friends, with other weirdos to give me so much more life guidance and confidence than any therapy session I've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I feel that.
Right?
And
That
just
is so
being
true.
together, that energy is,
The vibes.
yeah, it's like nothing else.
The energy is so real because you are in the same like spiritual realm together. Your hive mind is coming together, as you said.
Right?
So I feel like, yeah,
Yes.
vibes are good. They're just always good.
Well, Justine, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I hail from Ontario, Canada. I've been spooky since I was born. For a long time, I was the only spooky person anywhere living in small
Mhm.
towns. I even went through school for special effects because I wanted to be
Heck
spooky
yeah.
full time.
Yes.
But now I mostly do that with my family. Typically around Halloween, we build and make new things every year.
And they're incredible.
Other than that, yeah, I'm a mom and just trying to get through life and trying to absorb as much spooky culture as I can. And recently I've been kind of starting a little business with some witchy friends, which has
Yee.
been life changing.
Ugh.
It's nice to have a community, a little coven together.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
That is so cool.
Cauldrons and Creations.
It is.
Am I
yes.
right? Yeah.
What a great name also. Like,
Thank you.
yes, absolutely.
We're quite proud of it.
People underestimate the cauldron.
It's true.
Okay? You can cook in a cauldron. You can bathe in a
Mhm.
cauldron. You
Mhm.
can create witchcraft in a cauldron.
Mhm.
It's multi-purpose,
It's a multi-purpose tool.
right? And it is. Like, we've done events. We do have a cauldron that is shared between the three of us to promote that good energy.
Hell yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Love
Very
that.
cool. How
We're
many
just-
kids do you have? I just realized. Like,
I have 2 kids.
okay.
Yes.
How old are they?
They are 7 and 4.
Woo!
My
I know.
goodness.
So they are busy. They're very
Yeah.
busy right now.
They're mobile.
They're mobile. They're mobile. That they are.
Uh-huh.
I always ask, like, anytime someone's like, I have a kid, they're, they give that whole, like, they're 24 months old. And I'm like, first of all, that's 2. Second of all,
That is too.
I just need to know, can they move and talk at that? Like,
1000%.
I won't know anything about their age, but if you say, like, they move
They can
fast
move.
Yes.
and they talk well, I'm like, oh, I can visualize what age that is.
I used to be one of those people that was like, don't ever tell me their age in months. And then once you have a kid, you get it, because that's how the doctor always talks to you. And that's
Yeah.
where
No.
like all of their like phases happen. But when people say 24 months, that does still make me want to
Yeah.
jump off a cliff, because I'm like, they're 2.
They're 2.
They're 2 now.
And I will die on that hill. All right. So
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Well, we've covered aliens, I don't know, 100 times probably on this podcast, but gosh darn it, we still haven't solved the dang old mystery. So
Still haven't done it. Well, you've almost gotten there, and I think you're going to touch on it today, Spider Queen. So I'm very
Here's the
excited to
thing.
hear more about that.
I've solved the mystery. I just
Yeah.
haven't been able
You're
to
waiting
like
for everybody else.
formally. Yeah. Everyone else in the world has to get on board, but
Catch up.
Catch up, guys. Today, we're going to add to our seemingly endless list of UFO stories, UAP disclosure updates, theories, and of course, people who know extraterrestrials personally.
Oh.
Okay, sure. We'll meet them too.
We'll see.
Let's start. We've split this episode up into 3 categories. What are they? Why are they here? What do they want? Wait, is that what? No. Where are they from? That's the other one.
What do they want?
What do they want? That's going to be the hardest one to answer. We're still trying.
We don't know.
We haven't met one yet to ask.
That one's going to take quite some time.
What are they? Why are they here? Where are they coming from? Those are our 3 questions we're going to ask today. We're going to start with what are they? And the answer to that question is we don't know.
IDK.
Inconclusive.
IDK. We have no idea. But at this point in time, we can definitively say that they do exist, which is rough. But
it is. I still feel like, even though like we are believers on this show, like I have become a believer from knowing Ashley, quite honestly. It's like since we started this in 2016, like you've made me a believer, and now I have so much fun with it. But I still, like over the last few years with everything that's been revealed, I'm still like kind of reeling and like, oh, this is happening. Like, yep, they're real.
I'm also reeling because in our community, in the woo-woo community and in like the weirdo community, we're all pretty like, they're real. What are we going to do about it? But I feel like in the normie community, they still don't realize they do exist.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know
Or
what I
they don't
mean?
want to accept it.
Or they don't want to accept it.
Right.
Which is it?
They're going through what I'm going through, except like times 100, where they're like,
they're in denial.
I can't do this. Yeah, like I don't know what to do with my body.
Yep.
Well, the Trump administration's White House National Security Advisor, Mike Waltz, has publicly stated that the U.S. government has radar imagery, thermals, infrared sensors, all of the above, that show definitively objects doing things that cannot be explained. We cannot deny that they exist. And we also, at this point, cannot deny that this is not human beings technology. They are not some top secret government experiment. And the reason we know that is not because the government is denying that it's theirs. Obviously they would. But it's because our military, the United States military, no offense, Justine, this is not your fault, but the United States military
Well, thank you.
has the most advanced technology on planet Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And our most respected members, jet pilots, literally some of the smartest people alive. You don't get to be a jet pilot. Look at that kitty.
I know. Sorry, I got so distracted while you were talking. I was like, that fur is so gorge.
Every time I'm on a call,
listen.
there she is.
That's the most beautiful coat I've ever seen.
I think she knows, and she's always like, oh, hello.
She's like, hello, I was born to be a star, and this is my chance.
Yes, I'm stunning.
We know you're pretty. Hey, Kate. So sorry. Go on.
Jet pilots, literally some of the smartest people alive. You don't get to be a jet pilot unless you have literally better than 20/20 vision and you're the most intelligent person that you've ever personally met. They are the ones telling us that what they are witnessing is impossible. Not improbable, impossible.
That's a lot.
Wild. Yeah.
There is nothing that exists, technologically speaking, that can maneuver the way that these things do. Another reason we can definitively say this is not some new government technology is because we have reports going back to World War II from every single country on Earth. Okay, so that would make it pretty old technology, one. And two, I think we'd probably figure out who they belong to by now. But unfortunately, when it comes to disclosure, the government is not sharing their intel with us. We know that they've been studying these things at least since the Roswell incident in 1947, and we know that because of declassified documents. There's been Project Sign, Project Grudge, Project Blue Book, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, known as ATIP, the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force, known as UAPTF, and today, now, we have the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, aka AARO, and that is just the information we've been given. Who knows what else the DoD, the CIA, the FBI, the NSA have been working on in
Yeah.
secret.
Everybody.
Oh my gosh.
All the three-letter words. We should call those the alphabet people. You know how they've like started to weaponize like
Right.
LGBTQ being like the
Yeah,
alphabet people.
these
It's
are
like,
the
first of
alphabet
all, the
people.
alphabet people is y'all.
Y'all have so many letters.
How many letters do you need?
And how many combinations of those letters? I don't know what to do.
And no one can figure it out. No one's going to tell us.
If you follow the trail of shady breadcrumbs, you will basically find that the United States government has never stopped investigating. They essentially create these programs, publicly disclose them, close them, say that they found no evidence of extraterrestrial life, and then we find out years later that, yeah, they closed them, but then they also secretly started a new program
Right.
with a different name that
Under a different
continued
title,
to
yeah.
study the phenomenon.
That
Sneaky,
tracks.
sneaky.
Yeah. So suspicious. That's very sus.
Yeah.
Now, today we have a series of bipartisan bills proposed by the American Republican Party and the Democratic Party, working together on something, that have been passed by the United States Congress and signed into law by President Joe Biden in 2023. It's known as the UAPDA, or the Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena Disclosure Act. Now, these people that have been coming forward, they're not asking the government to admit that UAPs exist. The government has already admitted that UAPs exist. They've even shared the proof. They've declassified those videos. They were shared by the Pentagon over the last handful of years. But what essentially these groups are doing is they're going to the government and they're saying, hey, we know you guys have been studying this stuff for over half a century. We know you have more information than you're sharing with us. We have whistleblowers who have testified under oath that you know more than you're sharing with us, that you have in your possession biological materials and technologies that are recovered from and originating from non-human intelligence. Please note they've never said extraterrestrial. They always just say non-human intelligence. And it's unconstitutional and potentially dangerous to continue to hide this information from the public. And I have to say, I think I agree. So I'm passing it off to you, ladies. What do you guys have to say about the fact that the United States government and probably every other government, I zero in on the US because they do have the biggest military. They do have the best tech. If they're saying it's not theirs, then it doesn't exist. What do you guys have to say about the fact that the government is hiding the information? How does it make you feel? How does it make you feel inside?
I mean,
bad, right?
Not great.
it makes me feel bad, but at the same time, what's so sad is I'm not surprised because I feel
No.
like they're always hiding things from us. So I think I'm such a jaded, cynical little witch that I'm just like, yeah, that sounds about right. And I'm like, and they're hiding it because there is like something in this information that they think is going to be helpful to them to have power over. So they're not going to tell the citizens. They're not going to, freak anybody out. They're just going to like hold this card and not tell us something. But I'm like, I know that they know something, not that there's like been, direct contact made with anything, but just, I just feel like they know so much more and are keeping it mysterious because they want to have something in their pocket that they can hold over us. I feel sad inside about it.
About you, Justine?
I feel the same. I feel like it's just one of probably many things that they're keeping from everybody. And I mean, even disclosing that they do indeed exist, it fell on deaf ears because everyone was like, okay, what next?
Yep.
Yeah, so what are they?
Keeping additional information doesn't surprise me. I know they don't want to cause a panic or anything like that, but are we at the point of panicking about that right now? I don't know. I feel like there's so many things that we could panic about. Really, like, it just seems very on brand for government to be hiding more things from us, but it doesn't make me feel very warm or cozy.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it sucks that we're all like, yeah, that's about right. Like,
Yep.
it shouldn't
What
be
next?
how it is, but yeah.
Yeah.
Things are scarier here on Earth than somewhere else. So I'm sort of like,
Right?
just tell us what's going on, because I think we're all open to it at this point because you're making planet Earth hellfire. So
I feel here's the scary part for me. I feel like if they were extraterrestrial, as in like alien from outer space, I feel like they would share that with us. So the fact that they are hiding something from us makes me think it's something else, which is scarier.
yeah.
The unknown. Yeah.
What is it?
Are they from other dimensions?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think this is an example of like ultra-terrestrial then, which is like way more unknown, obviously? Like,
Or time travel.
Or time travel?
your cat is casting
Looming?
a spell on me.
Let's see what she reacts to. Hold on. Is it time travel? No. Is it aliens? Ultra-terrestrials.
Yep, an ear twitch.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and it was a twitch.
Are we in a simulation? Is it God?
I think she's frozen.
Damn it. She's
Oh,
you know what? She's freezing us out just like the government.
I was just
She's
about
one,
to
she's one of them.
non-disclosure.
Oh, that was
Look at
just
her.
so
Don't
funny to
even
look
look at
over
us
at
now.
Justine's
I'm so-
screen and it was just,
She's like a little gargoyle.
Listen, she was born to be a star.
I'm like, I can barely record this episode because she's perfect.
Okay, so the answer to what are they literally is impossible to answer.
Mhm.
And that is because we're literally not being told. It's not a matter of they don't know. And here's the thing, maybe it is a matter of they don't know, but that's scary too.
Right.
Yeah.
Because if they don't know, then no one knows. They're the only people that hold the cards. They're the only people that have all of the information at their disposal.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I think it would be embarrassing for them to admit they didn't know.
After all that research, all
Right.
that time, nothing.
Yeah, 70 plus years of studying it.
Mm-hmm. Oof.
But it definitely doesn't instill any confidence in me. So
No.
we don't know what they are. We've determined that one of the reasons, though, they might not be telling us about their findings is because the findings point to something terrifying. Something way beyond it's aliens from another planet. They're just popping by. Whistleblowers have sworn under oath that they've witnessed these non-human biologics harming people, although the details of that harm are still very much so under wraps. We don't know what that means. Could they possibly have proof that these non-human biologics have taken people? Abducted people? Let's talk about abductions. I know Justine has a great story for us today related to alien abductions, one of my all-time favorites.
I do. So I brought a little Canadian story just
Love it.
to represent.
Ooh, even better.
Now I'm going to talk about the unsolved disappearance of Granger Taylor, or the abduction of Granger Taylor, depending on how you choose to view it.
Mm-hmm.
So this story takes place in a little town in British Columbia, so on the west coast, called Duncan. Now Duncan is known as a UFO hotspot.
I didn't know that.
Interesting. Yeah.
Apparently, yes. And I did do a little research, and British Columbia and Ontario tend to be, I mean, they're also the most highly populated, but those are abduction hotspots. So this
Okay.
town in particular is a little town in the mountains. Everyone knows everyone else. Typical small Canadian town. Granger was born there. When he was a boy in school, he was uninterested in school because he was so intelligent it bored him.
Same.
Right? Same these. When he got to be about 14, he dropped out saying he was just done with it. He wanted
Okay.
to work at his house on his family's property, and he started building things. He would gain a reputation in the town of being a mechanical genius. He was also cited as a mechanical anthropologist, which was a really
Oh,
interesting term.
Yeah. Way to
I was
put
like,
what a
I
it.
title.
don't know if
Yeah.
those things are, work together, but
Are they connected? Yeah.
we shall see. So he started when he was just a boy, building a single cylinder car from scratch that worked
Sure.
on his own.
Easy.
Easy peasy.
Yeah, we've all
We
done
can all
that.
do that, right? And he gained such a reputation in town that a lot of local children would actually come to the property in the summer and spend time with him building. So it was almost a summer camp of sorts. And the
I love
town
that.
felt that he was such a positive influence on them, like such a good role model, that they were absolutely fine with the kids spending time there. He was a rather large man as he grew. He was over 6 feet tall, kind of daunting appearance, but he was known as a gentle giant. So
I
just
love
a
that.
sweetheart, very shy,
We call that redneck summer camp where I come from.
right? Same here,
Redneck
out
summer
in the woods.
camp.
Yep.
I
and
love that.
I and that's it. Like he was such a positive influence on the kids. A lot of those children went on to appear in documentaries about Granger as they grew older and had nothing but positive things to say about him and his influence on them. At one point, Granger found a broken down steam engine in the woods near where he lived, and it had been completely reclaimed by nature. And he cleared a path, somehow got it out of the woods, and rebuilt it.
What?
Incredible, like a working steam engine.
Steam engine.
And you can't usually if something has been like the moss has like grown over it, like
Trees
you're
through
like,
it.
oh, there's no hope for that. Yeah, there's how?
How?
Well, and you said, what year was this? You said 70s or 80s?
This is in the 70s.
Okay, so like there's no Google because like
No.
No.
maybe if I found a steam engine, I'm not saying that like I could recreate it, but I could Google how steam engines work.
What is a steam engine?
What is?
And he likely read up enough to know, but to have that know-how just
Yeah.
intrinsically,
Insane.
how? Insane.
Wow.
So there was a number of things that he rebuilt. He also went on to rebuild a Kitty Hawk plane, again
So
in his
cool.
backyard,
Dang.
which was in perfect working condition.
Just a
And
plane.
all the boys got to help paint the outside of it to have the classic like shark mouth
Yeah.
design on it.
Oh yeah,
So cool.
you have to.
Yep. His best friend Robert was quoted as saying he got to paint one of the teeth. That's his legacy, one of the teeth. So after that, once he built the plane, it's like his focus kind of shifted to the skies. He started to be very interested in UFOs. He started talking more about it. And he actually took on the task of building a UFO in his backyard that was made of two satellite dishes put together. It wasn't, obviously wasn't working. It was more of a hangout spot for him and the boys, like a tree house, and it was equipped with couches and a wood stove.
Whoa.
Yeah, they had this amazing hangout spot that was his place to have some quiet time to think when he was working on new projects.
Wow.
Around this same time, though, Granger started talking about how he was visited in his sleep and at night by extraterrestrials, and how they started telling him that he was going to go on a journey, specifically a 42-month interstellar journey around the universe. And because he truly felt he was being contacted, he felt very touched and flattered that they had chosen him.
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
amazing and so sweet.
I remain angry every day that I don't get abducted. Like every day that I'm not abducted, I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Like what?
Like, please come for me.
I
Why
feel like
not me?
the vibes are there, the vibes are here.
Yep.
What's the
Anytime now.
problem?
I know. I'm
Right?
ready.
So
I'm
I
willing.
understand being flattered.
Yeah.
I know. I
so
so get
do I.
that. That's really sweet.
It is. So I guess a lot of the townsfolk had heard of his musings on this, and some laughed it off. They said he's always been a bit quirky. Whereas others, some friends and family, truly believed he was being contacted. And at that time, there may or may not be a correlation to this. Granger also started experimenting with psychedelics.
Well,
This was the 70s.
Mm,
It was a
sure.
time very commonplace, but apparently he did this only in private, never did this around the children that he was mentoring.
right.
And his family knew about it, but they were still unsure if there was any correlation between his use of psychedelics and his visits from extraterrestrials or his communication with them, we'll say.
Yeah, when you say correlation, like that could be anything. That could be is there a correlation as in he takes the psychedelics and he trips and
Mhm.
believes that he is having these communications, or he takes the psychedelics and it opens his mind to the point where he can have communication with these extraterrestrials. I know that some people would hear like, oh well, he started taking psychedelics at this time, and they're like, well, that's why he thought aliens were coming.
Right.
But in my head I'm like, oh well, that's why he was able to communicate with a higher vibrational being.
1000%.
He had opened him up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the same way folks will say like magic mushrooms will open up
Yeah.
your mind to
1000%.
different experience. It brings you to that different level.
Yeah.
That's my thinking anyway.
Sames.
I'm with you.
Now, Granger specified that they would take him on his interstellar journey, specifically on a stormy night, because the thunderstorm would hide their arrival and their departure.
All right. Well, I'll never forget that.
Nope.
I know. So anytime
Don't be
there's
thinking
a
about
storm,
that.
you'll know they're up there. So on November 29th, 1980, Granger visited a local diner and spoke with all the patrons about how he was leaving on his journey, and it was as if he was saying goodbye to everyone.
Mhm.
And now, because he was a fixture in the town, everyone laughed it off and essentially laughed him out of the diner.
Right.
Didn't really take him seriously. After that, he went over to his friend Robert's house, almost to say goodbye to him, and then he got into his pickup truck and he drove up onto Mount Provost, which was the mountain closest to the town, in the middle of a thunderstorm. Now, in the middle of the night, a large boom was heard up on the mountain, and residents were quoted as saying, "Oh, there goes Granger," as if they knew, there he goes, he's off.
That was the start of the journey.
That was the start of the journey. Now, his parents, in the morning, they woke up to a note that read, "Dear Mother and Father, I have gone away to walk aboard a spaceship. As recurring dreams assured, a 42-month interstellar voyage to explore the vast universe and then return. I'm leaving behind all my possessions to you, as I will no longer require the use of any. Please use the instructions in my will as a guide to help. Love, Granger." So before his disappearance, Granger had altered his will to negate the use of the word death and instead use departure.
Okay.
Okay.
So he was planning this for quite a while,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
right? He knew it was coming.
He knew he was leaving.
Mm-hmm.
He knew he was leaving. And his family held on to the hope of his return. His stepbrother actually spent the night that he was set to return after 42 months out in a boat watching the skies, waiting for him.
Oh, my
So
God.
they truly did believe that he was coming back.
Yeah.
However, Granger was never seen again. He did not return from his journey, but his family and friends still hold out hope that he may return someday.
Well, here's the thing, 42 months Earth time?
Who's to say?
Whose time? What are we
Whose
talking
time?
about here?
Yeah.
No, that's very true.
That's a good point.
I'm theorizing that in the year like 2170, Granger's gonna show up again and be
Yep.
like, "Where's my family?" And everyone's
And
gonna
he
be
hasn't
like, "Oh
aged.
no!" And he hasn't aged, and he's still 6'3".
Yeah, look exactly the
And
same, and everyone will be like,
Oh,
"Ah."
yeah, and his family's gonna be long gone.
oh.
But I'm with you. I think he's out there.
Yeah.
His story endures.
Mm-hmm.
And now, one thing that I found that I had watched a documentary on CBC about Granger called Spaceman, which is excellent if you can check it out. But it wasn't on that. I heard it on a different podcast that Granger's father actually disappeared when he was 7 years old.
What?
So, yes, which I didn't realize. So his father went out on a fishing trip and never returned. No body was ever discovered. He was just gone.
Just vanished.
And as a little boy, that could have quite an impact on you.
Of
Definitely.
course.
His mother then remarried a lovely man who had children of his own, so he was in this large blended family. But strange, like the juxtaposition of two people in the same family disappearing
Yes.
without
I
any
never
trace.
knew that
Like,
piece.
did his dad just come and get him?
Yeah, that's true. Like,
Like he was coming to pick him up.
yeah, if we actually did have people who took, Close Encounters seriously, which we do, but like on a mass scale,
Mm-hmm.
we could have a record of generations of people, because it does seem as though parents of children who have UFO experiences, it almost seems genetic.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It seems like almost like the ability to witness the paranormal.
Right.
I don't know if it's the ability to witness UFOs and extraterrestrials or whatever they
Or if they're
are,
drawn to
Mhm.
you.
or if they're drawn to you. If they are, in fact, studying us, we do that.
Yeah.
We do that with, with different animals. Like when we're studying like white lab rats, we're studying generations of white lab rats.
Right.
Yep.
Now, white lab rats reproduce freaking immediately, so we can study 10 generations of white lab rats and what their bodies do and what they pass on in their genes in a matter of months. Time's probably different for them. They probably do the same thing to us.
Yeah.
It's
That's
true.
very true.
There's a great Steven Spielberg miniseries from way back when called Taken, and it is about generations of folks being abducted and the family trees and how they all, intersect.
I have to find that.
And because
I
I
know.
think he had looked at stories that it's all tied together.
Right. It seems to be a thing.
There's an episode of a documentary series on, I think it's Hulu, that features Granger's story as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember what it's called. Hold on, let me see if I can find it.
I feel like that's how I heard about Granger, to be honest. I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Also, I did find out that the province of British Columbia actually purchased his steam engine, and it's on display at the BC Forest Discovery Center.
Oh,
So if anyone's from BC, they can go check out his steam engine.
There's so much that is sweet about this story. Like I love like the
Yes.
believers, the supporters, like how wholesome Granger was. Like the like waiting in the boat for his return. Like there's so much that I'm just like I love it.
Now, I will say there was a pickup truck that was discovered on Mount Provost years later that looked as if it had been blown apart by an explosion.
Mhm.
And there were bone fragments found near the truck. However, this was so early in DNA testing that they could never conclusively say that the bones were Granger's.
Mhm.
So the local coroner was like, "Yep, that's him," but they have no idea really.
Yeah.
And that was also something that Granger had mentioned, that the extraterrestrials planned on blowing up any evidence that he had been up on the mountain, including his truck.
Well.
Part of the plan.
I was gonna say, I know about the truck being found because there was so much. First of all, that's what skeptics will point to
Exactly.
in this story
course.
and be like, he went up there and he killed himself.
Yeah, it was a total hoax.
Yeah.
Yeah, blew himself up.
He went up there, he blew himself up, he killed himself, which obviously the people closest to him vehemently deny and say like he wouldn't have done that. He wasn't a person who would want to leave the earth. He loved being here and building his
Mhm.
Yep.
machines in the woods. with his friends and apparently eating mushrooms. This is my kind of guy.
I
Okay,
know,
this
right?
is the kind of friend that I need.
I want to hang with this guy.
We all need a Granger.
I know, right? I want to hang there.
But yeah, there's a lot of skepticism around the truck too, because it's like the paint on the truck didn't match the paint on Granger's truck.
Yeah.
There was a partial license plate found in a tree that didn't match the license plate. So
Yeah.
Yeah, to just be like, yep, that's it, case closed. Like, you can't.
You can't. And like areas like that, the roads are so thick and windy, and it doesn't guarantee that that's where he went at all.
Yeah. Agreed.
And other people could have been lost. Like there's probably a number of different broken down vehicles up there.
The Hulu series is called Out There: Crimes of the Paranormal. I've talked about it on the show before, actually.
Yeah, it's probably why I watched it.
Yeah, I think Granger is the second episode, Interstellar Voyager.
Oh.
And I think he's out there.
I think he's out there.
Me too.
I think that
it's fun to believe.
It is fun to believe.
That's right.
If aliens did want someone want a person, I think Granger is exactly the kind of person they would want.
1000%. It makes total sense.
Well, here's the thing, Lauren.
You want to be wanted?
I want to be wanted. And apparently I'm not, but I know you're not a fan of this theory. And the last time we talked about it, you got upset. But we do need to revisit the spider theory.
I knew it was coming, Ashley. I brought it up at the beginning. You can't get by me. Yep. Go ahead.
Because here's the thing. Okay, this time though, I know you're prejudiced, so this time I'm going to use lobsters. Is that better or worse?
Better.
Okay.
Because I eat lobsters, so I'm like, even though like you might pinch me, like I'm gonna cook you and eat you. So
that's fair.
It's gonna be delicious. I'm gonna dip you in butter.
I'm gonna dip you in butter.
So when it comes to the question of why are they here, okay, maybe they're abducting really special people, which can be scary. Especially if you're a person who's not like me, who wants to be abducted, who will stand in a field and go, "What? It's time." But I think I really am championing the spider analogy, and the spider analogy can be boiled down to, because non-human entities are extremely advanced consciousness. They surpass our intelligence so massively, we can barely even comprehend that they are even there, much less that they have the ability to kill us, eat us, save us, etc. And especially because there seems to be all different types of craft, all different types of creatures and experiences described by people who claim to have close encounters. It's really hard to nail down what the hell they're doing here or what they want from us. Do they come in peace? Are they harvesting our organs? Are they trying to save us or lift us into a higher consciousness? I think the answer could very well be D, all of the above. And I think that because of spiders. Or in this case, lobsters.
Lobsters.
And here's why. When we, as human beings, go into the ocean to take lobsters, why are we taking them? Most lobsters are fished for their delicious, delicious meat. I'm getting hungry. Now I want lobster for lunch. They're a food source, but we have all kinds of laws and regulations to protect lobsters in certain cases. For example, if a lobsterman catches a pregnant lobster that's covered in eggs, they have to put that lobster back in the ocean to protect the species. There are areas where only certain amounts of permits are allowed to prevent overfishing. There are seasons that are closed to prevent, any harm being done to these populations. There are species of lobster that are off limits. Other human beings are capturing lobsters for study and observation, whether it's taking them from the ocean completely and never putting them back, or tagging them and re-releasing them to study their movements and lifespan, etc. Now, we as human beings have never, as far as I know, not once, tried to explain ourselves to these lobsters. We have never tried to find like a lobster representative
Listen.
I need to speak with you immediately.
I need to speak with, take us to your leader. We need to talk to the king lobster and explain to him why we take you guys,
Right.
so that you can tell your friends and family. So that's because we know, we are so much more advanced than they are. We assume they have no thought processes they couldn't possibly understand. And here's the thing, if they could understand, what if they wanted to start a union? What if they started to protest? What if they didn't want to be taken from
They're
the
going to
ocean and
band
eaten?
together, and then we'll never get to eat buttery lobster ever again.
What are we going to do then?
What are we going to do? I'll
So-
never eat again.
I think we're lobsters. We are lobsters in the relationship with whatever these beings are. We constantly suspect that contact is right around the corner, that eventually on a mass scale, these non-human entities will announce themselves or introduce themselves. But that very well may never be the case, because we humans, we're not introducing ourselves on a mass scale to lobsters, to
Mhm.
spiders, to creatures that are below us.
Right.
I'm sure that there are scientists in the world that have tried to communicate with a lobster.
I was just about to say, like, and even like those people who go on the like expeditions, like who are out on the boats, like getting the lobsters. What if they were like really going on like no sleep? They finally got a lobster and they're just
Real
down
loopy.
there in like the crew mess. Like, listen, it's me and you here.
Listen, bud.
Let me tell you, we are going to keep doing this. Tell your family.
Look out.
Tell your family, learn English.
So, no, 1000%. I'm sure there has been an attempt by someone, but no, it's a great analogy.
It
And
does
even the
work.
spider one was. I only made fun of you the first time because you were talking about like the spiders that you captured and set free in your bathroom, and like that they had to like all worship you. That was where you lost me, but I so understand your theory.
I lost you at being the spider god.
Yes.
That's fair.
But it was
Okay.
not the theory at all. That part I need to make clear. I totally got what you were saying of like, I think it's that same relationship. And I was like, totally. I just don't know that you're the spider god, but you might be. I don't know. You could be.
You're their queen.
I'm the queen. I'm the spider queen. I'm the lobster queen.
That's right.
So I think that might be why they're keeping the information from us, because that's very scary. And that, I think, can cause way more struggle and strife within religious communities.
Good point.
Because then extraterrestrials, if you just say, I don't know, whatever, they're aliens and sometimes they pop in, I think that you can wrap your head around that and be like, well, if God created us, he created them, da 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 da.
Right.
But if you all of a sudden introduce something that is so much more advanced than us, then you start to question, like, okay, is God real? And if God's real, we've been told that we are created in his image, so what are they? So what is this?
What is that about?
Yeah, it all kind of collapses then.
It completely collapses.
Well, then
that
some people are
system.
like, wait, are they God? Like, what? Like,
Are
is
they
this the
God?
higher being? Like, I think that's like some people, yeah, would start to spiral about that. Yeah.
Like, now
it's
you're catching on.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
So part of me thinks that the reason that a lot of this information is being hidden from us isn't simply, yeah, they're extraterrestrials. It's
Right.
literally like, oh, they are so much more advanced than us. They don't even recognize us as the great humans we are. We have a very inflated view of ourselves.
Very
as a species.
inflated.
We got some big egos down here.
Little ethnocentric here on Earth.
We don't take well to people being bigger and better and badder than us.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. They're popping up. They're popping up everywhere. They're popping up over oceans, in mountains, in caves. Where are they coming from, though? Because that's a huge question. Are they coming from interstellar galaxies?
Right.
If so, how are they getting here? Are they interdimensional? Are they in our ocean? I think we should talk about where they come from, regardless of why they're here. Where do they come from? They're mostly seen in the sky, but some people have found them in some pretty strange places. And Lauren has a very special lady to introduce us to today.
She's such a special lady. Her name is Angelia Schultz, aka Anjali, as she goes now. And she also, like, her name is Angelia Lynn Johnston at one point, like, so many names for this woman. But Anjali is how she is known now. She's on Twitter or X. And Ashley, you said that's how you, like, heard about her?
I found her on Twitter, just sort of like talking about her experience, and it was an immediate follow.
Yeah.
Okay.
No questions, no further questions, Your Honor. Follow.
She has some stories. She has some experiences. Her Twitter name is at Anjali on Gaia, and you can still follow her there. She's been on there for a long time, but she was most known because she had a Reddit post back in like 2020 or 2021, and then did a press conference in Washington, D.C. that was live streamed also in 2021. So she's had these moments that like blew her up on the internet, but her Reddit post was controversial because it got deleted so quickly, but a bunch of users had already seen it, and she was telling stories about possibly coming in contact with aliens. And people, I don't know what it was, something about her story, which we'll get into, like really grabbed onto people. So there were like a bunch of subreddits formed, and people are like still talking about her today. And when you Google her, this is always what's fascinating to me about these people. When you Google her, there's not like a ton. You're either finding like Reddit threads, her Twitter, or like the live stream link. Like you can still find it on YouTube. It's like, it's pretty grainy, but you can still get good things out of it. But it's like she's kind of hard to find, and that always feels sus to me when I'm looking somebody up and I'm like, people are trying to hide her away. Anyway, little backstory of Anjali. She has a government background. She worked with the Defense Intelligence Agency for some time, and also with the Marines for a brief period. She ran for Senate in South Dakota, where she's from, in 2014, and was a very well respected Democratic candidate, known and loved in her community. She like was always working with the government in some way, shape, or form, and also was like, her biggest thing, which I think she says in the live stream at her press conference, is like, I have always worked in like peacemaking and like reaching out across our borders and like trying to make peace and connect. And she said, that's why I also believe that I have contact with higher beings, because I'm meant to do that same thing with extraterrestrials potentially, which I was like, that's an interesting perspective. I like it. She got very sick in 2016, could no longer work due to cognitive fog, and like she just literally couldn't do her job anymore. So she had to seek treatment in Southern California. And while in California, she met two individuals who were also battling illness at the same treatment center. And they approached her talking about, you know, her illness, higher consciousness, higher beings. And they got to chatting, and they were like, come with us to the Mojave Desert. We have something to show you. Like we can make contact with other places, other things, and like you really need to see this. So she makes friends with these two people who she didn't want to reveal their information to the public, so she's always referred to them as Wayne and Trisha, and she especially talks about Wayne. So she holds this press conference in August of 2021 outside of the Lincoln Memorial. She's making it very official. She's like sitting in this chair. She has two cameras on her. And I want to go over kind of what she said in the press conference because it summarizes her whole belief.
This is when I found her, was when it was the press conference. Yeah.
And this is like what she'll say on Twitter, and like she's always commenting on other people's posts when there's alien discussion. She's like, well, in my experience. So like she's holding on to this story. So I'm just going to try to go into like the important parts of this press conference. So it opens with Anjali sitting in a wheelchair, and there is a bodyguard looking guy behind her in aviators, and also Alan Steinfeld, the author, producer, speaker of consciousness, higher beings, metaphysics. He is absolutely like, he's our kind of guy.
He's in it. Yeah.
And so he is introducing her. The Lincoln Memorial is very visible in the background because she very much wants to like tie it to like, I am in Washington, D.C. and I mean fucking business.
Yeah, I'm not in a basement somewhere with a weird Confederate flag behind me.
1000%.
Like those fucking TikTok videos of guys talking about aliens, and it's like, why do you have a Confederate flag?
I know.
Immediately.
You're making this worse for all of us who are like genuinely trying to do this. So Alan welcomes and introduces her and says like she has direct experience with higher beings. They have communicated with her and directed her to be here today, is what he says. And then so she gets up there. She starts talking about herself, talks about her South Dakota background, the Defense Intelligence Agency. She's letting people know, like, I am not, once again, I'm not a crazy person in a basement. Like, I have this background. I have been working with the government. I believe I have expertise on this. I got sick, and so I've had a long break, but I have been introduced to the right people. So she is talking about like her goals and what she wants to teach everybody about. She starts talking about the friends from Southern California, and she shares Wayne's backstory that he saw UFOs over a mountain on his property and learned from the higher beings that there was an alien base inside of a mountain that you entered through a cave. He had become obsessed and even dug deeper into the tunnel because there was like a very shallow entrance, but he dug deeper and he found the base. And then Wayne and Trisha, this other person, invited her to the base. And in an olive branch of trust, she called it, they provided her with their names, phone numbers, and addresses so she could share the information with her daughter because her family was extremely concerned when she was like, hey, met these folks at the treatment center
And I'm gonna go inside a mountain.
to meet the aliens. And it was like, Mama.
I mean, fair.
Mom, are we sure?
Are you sure about that? You feeling okay?
Yeah.
But they were like so certain. They're like, no, like take our information, take all of it. So at 3 p.m. on January 21st, 2018, she enters into this tunnel that Wayne led her to in the Mojave Desert with 4 people, Wayne, Trisha, and another couple with whom they are no longer in contact with. We don't know what happened to them.
Oh my God.
When they round the
Falling out.
corner, there are 2 different races of beings. One, gray, several tall whites, 6.5 to 7 feet tall, with warmish white hair and stunning, radiant alabaster skin, she says. And when
Okay.
greeting her, they were surprised, but then sort of invited her with an extension of a limb to accompany them deeper into the base. She couldn't tell where the tunnel ended and the base began. She was starting to get kind of lost when she was in there, but they lead her into this room where she sees several more beings. One that she referred to as a mantis, 8 feet tall with lavender skin. And this being had visited her previously, and she thought the being was only 4 feet tall. She thought she had been visited by it maybe in her sleep, but she had always thought they were small, and this was the first time she saw like an 8-foot tall version of the being. And she said
I'm gonna throw up.
they felt like beautiful forms of light and love, and that she has always
Okay.
felt safe, never threatened.
Oh.
And once she saw them, it was like, okay, I'm okay. Because before it was sort of like, the
Oh.
fuck did you bring me to, Wayne? And
Yeah.
now she was like, okay.
But once she saw her mantis friend.
She got
She
that
was
lavender beauty and felt the love.
Okay.
Do we mean like mantis or do we mean like mantis?
I think we mean like mantis.
Yeah, which to me, I'm like, that's what made you feel the love? Because that would
Yeah.
send me running
Yeah,
out of that
If I
cave
saw an
immediately.
8-foot tall mantis,
Whew.
you better hope there's not a weapon around because I'm using it on myself. I can't handle that.
I
That's a
can't.
lot.
Even if they're lavender, that's not okay.
It was a little cute being, you know.
I know,
like,
I was like, I'd rather it be this, but no, it's more like the mantis like shape and like so to be like 8 feet. I can't. Right? Yeah. I'm gonna moonwalk out of here.
Here I go.
So she feels safe. So that is her experience.
That's all that matters.
She lays down on a table on the floor and she said she felt her consciousness being pulled outside of her body. There was
Okay.
this mist and again a pure feeling of love. And they kept saying to her, wake up, the veil is very heavy. Remember who you are, what you agreed to, and be prepared to transcend. And they kept using words like cold density and density, which referred to learning and evolution. And she says, like, she didn't fully understand it, yet understood it completely, was the only way she could describe it. Then she's back into her body. She's escorted out of the base. And then she suddenly sees a big burst of light. And the next thing she knows, she's back in Wayne's house. And she had like totally blacked out from them, like traveling back from the desert, from the desert cave. to the house.
Wow.
So she like is coming to and just starts saying like fuck fuck. She said she was screaming like every expletive that existed, but everyone else in the room with her was like what? Because she had been there, but she like wasn't in her body. So that was her experience.
Okay.
Did she like walk back normally, or was she carried back, or?
Everyone said like she was quiet, but she was like going back with them. Like they went on their hike and then like got into a vehicle at some point and were transported back, and that she like didn't
Her
seem
consciousness was just
okay, but
elsewhere.
they were like she was there.
Yeah.
And then she just arrives back in her body and is like what? And all while she like she's telling this story obviously in a more detailed way during this press conference, and Alan Steinfeld is like scooting around behind her with a camcorder the whole time like a proud dad, just like listen to her, which I just thought was so funny.
Listen to her, it's real.
This girl. So I just thought that was a funny thing to add. But so then she tells the story to give everyone backstory of like, this is why I'm here today. This is what I experienced. But then she says, like, here's my goal. I want to return to the base. I want an expedition. I want to go with the property owners. Whenever she started saying property owners instead of Wayne and Trisha, because it was always known those were fake names anyway. And I guess Wayne and Trisha both have property near the Mojave Desert area. Again, she didn't want to give away too much about where they lived. So she just kept saying the property owners. But she said, I also need a team of scientists, and I invite any scientists with the instruments to measure, the proper instruments to measure, to please contact me and join me. And she said she already had a team, but she was like, I'll be releasing the names later, but I already have some people behind me. She had an astronaut, a documentarian, a chief investigative reporter, and her next intention was to take academics, physicists, astronomers, like get everybody on her team. And she just kept saying, I want full transparency and full disclosure. I'm basically going to give you everything except for my blood type. That was like her joke. And she's like, this is important because the beings need us ready for contact. And like, we need to be open. We need to be ready. So then she goes into this like this crazy thing that I'm not going to get into because she talked for so long, and it was about this like density and coal density. And this is also where it gets a little grainy and harder to understand, I feel like, in the live stream. So I like it's also hard to pick up. There were some people on Reddit who tried to transcribe it the best they can, but it was basically like, do not be afraid. Cycle of learning is coming to an end. Our consciousness is evolving. The way that consciousness forms and creates matter, which is just energy to manifest, like it's something they want to help us learn to do as we evolve. All consciousness begins and ends in the same place, in what they call the source of all light. And then she goes in talking about like levels. There's a first, a second, and a third density. And the third density is like the most mature level you can get to. And that's what they're trying to bring us to. And humans right now are only going into like the first density. And so she's just talking about like all these paths and different levels, and that we need to learn how to ascend into that and be open to it. And that is why they're here to teach us, but we need to like first make contact with them and gain their trust. And she starts talking using words like creator, which that's what rubbed people the wrong way the most, as Ashley was discussing before.
Well,
everyone gets so sensitive about their god.
I know.
And she talks about like the third density being like reincarnation, and that beyond, once you are reincarnated, beyond that you can get to like fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth density, and then you're just like existing in the universe.
That all makes so much sense.
You are light.
Yeah, she's going on and on about this and saying, and like that the beings travel by light, they come from light, they are as fast as light, and that is why they're sometimes hard to detect. Like she just goes in and in. She even then wraps up after all of it saying like, we are going on this expedition, we need to gain their trust, now is the time, I hope you'll join me. We're not even going to fundraise for this expedition before you like think I'm a scammer. Because she's like, I have money backing this already because the right people like fully believe in this and I have their support. And so then obviously this expedition never happened. We would have heard about it. It was supposed to be in December of 2021. It didn't happen. And, you know, she had a decent amount of supporters. She had a ton of skeptics, obviously, a bunch of people like sending her death threats, like, how dare you say God isn't real, blah, 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 which she like never did say that, but, you know.
Of course.
So then everyone is like, she has a lot of people against her, but really a good amount of support. Like what she was saying really hit home with some people. So everyone is talking about it all over the internet, people asking for interviews, and she keeps saying it's happening, it's happening. And then suddenly in like late November, early December, right before it would have happened, she just says like, it's shut down, it's not happening. I can't really go into detail, but it like, we can't do this. Wayne also told me that we couldn't go forward with it, even though he's been supportive up until this point. And it's like, I can't reveal much more other than Wayne and other sources have said we need to stop. So the expedition never happened for under the most suspicious of
For real.
terms. So that's kind of like all we got from it, except that now she has this internet presence where she still continues to talk about it and, is on Twitter and like has not backpedaled on her story at all, even though people
No.
try to call her out as a scammer and it being a hoax all the time and are like, well, if this is true, how is this true? But she is like, this was my experience. Believe it or not, I have other witnesses. I have other people who are with me. You can of course believe what you want, but like, I had support in this, we just never made the expedition happen. And so obviously it's fishy that the expedition didn't happen. I don't know if it's more suspicious on her side or that she was being silenced by somebody else. You can like really go either way, that she knew too much and she was in DC doing this press conference. I'm sure there were some angry government officials or people who had worked with her before who were like, bitch, what are you doing?
Well, yeah, if they know, if they have the knowledge and they know what it is and she was onto something, there's no way they would have allowed her to do this.
Right.
Also, like recording that in DC is kind of almost like guerrilla style, like rubbing it in their face that they haven't come out with anything. And
That's
she's like,
what
I'm
I
going
loved about it. I was like, yes, girl.
That's so cool.
Anjali.
Yeah, it's wild that a like government official, like former, what was she?
A Defense Intelligence Agency member. And then she said, I was like, I don't know the word member, official.
Yeah, that's wild.
And then also she worked for the Marines briefly, but she was always on the side of
Okay.
like communicating with others. Like everybody wanted her to be like their point person
So again,
of like
it would
peacemaking.
make sense why they would choose someone like her to
1000%.
Yeah.
bring into their inner circle.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with Granger, right? It's like
Yes.
chosen
They
people
make sense.
that make perfect sense. Yeah.
But that pisses me off because why not me? I'm
I know.
really cool and I have great vibes.
You do.
I have a platform.
You do feel like somebody who they would pick. Yeah,
Right?
because you have a
Contact
platform
me.
to spread the information. If they have a
Hello?
message, spread it.
And I'm ready
like what they
and I'm
used
willing.
Anjali for. I know.
You have a willing audience.
I have a willing audience who's like, you know what, I'm getting myself in deep. I keep saying that I'm ready, and now I'm like, but if they show up, I'm gonna poop my pants.
And they never saw Ashley again.
And they never saw her again. The last footage of her.
The last thing I was going to say, it goes on for a while, so I would say like if you can go watch the live stream, but at the end there is a Q&A and it does get a little like dicey again with the stream, so some parts are cut out, but some of the parts that a Reddit user was able to transcribe were somebody asked how are you communicating with them, or like how do you receive messages, and she said she gets a download to her brain that includes intention and emotion and is usually filled with love, kindness, and patience, but sometimes a little bit of humor, which I was like, jokesters.
Aw.
They're funny.
She said it's
Love
higher,
that for
more
us.
accurate, and a more complete form of communication. Somebody else asked, how did Wayne hear about the base? He said that he was just on top of the mountain where the cave was and that he was approached by like kind of the same thing, like a feeling of like, you need to get inside, like come inside.
Okay.
Like a download.
Get in here. Yeah. And so he was like, okay, like say no more, and went in. Somebody asked, when will this contact be? Because, the expedition didn't happen, but you say they're still going to contact us in some way. She said, we are coming to the end of 2 cycles, the end of an Earth cycle. And then she never talks about the second cycle. She just goes on about the first one is like the end and moved on to the next question. But she says that changes to the Earth are not all man-made, but we have treated Earth horribly. And this is a big issue with the higher beings. So we're at the end of the Earth cycle.
Accurate.
She said during her hospital stay in Southern California, she had a near-death experience and she was very much at peace. She felt she could slip away and that it would be totally fine because she was comforted by the lavender beings that she had spoken about before. And so that is why she kind of had that connection to them in the cave.
On X, on her Twitter, she will share her downloads when she gets them,
Mhm.
which is why I follow her.
We love it.
Because I want to hear what they have to say. If they're real, listen, I want to have all the information. Beepity beep 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 beepity beep beep beep. Breaking news. Breaking news, everybody. Breaking Anjali news. Okay.
Goodness gracious.
We recorded this episode on February 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
We discussed Anjali. Angela, as we are going to call her
Angelia
from now on.
Schultz, her birth given name.
2 days after we recorded this episode, yours truly got into some Twitter beef with Anjali herself.
Beautiful Twitter beef, well-warranted Twitter beef. Ashley Slade. You said some things and they were worth it.
Synchronicities, ma'am. Okay, so here's what
Synchronicities, absolutely.
I'm an Anjali follower. I have been for years. I don't necessarily buy into all of her stuff, but
sure.
Here's the thing. If all of a sudden she gets on Twitter to say expeditions on, we're going there next week with our cameras. I've got my psychologists, I've got my media, I've got my journalists, I've got my whatever. We're going. I want to be the first one to know. So I'm a 1000% Anjali follower.
So you're going to follow her, of course.
She posts a lot of wackadoo stuff, and that's fine. But on February 4th, I'll read you all of her tweets so you know what she said, and then I will let you know what I said. On February 4th, she gets on Twitter, and she says, I was recently asked in an X space, which I guess is Twitter's version of where you can go on and talk live. I don't know. If the non-human intelligent beings that I communicate with have ever predicted the future and it came true. I've been afraid to share this for years. They told me in 2020 that the COVID-19 vaccination would kill me and not to take it because something harmful for me was in it. She goes on to say, when healthy athletes began dying after receiving it in 2021, and let me just stop you right there, pal. That is a hoax. You can look this up.
Hoax.
There are a lot of claims that there were waves of young athletes that died suddenly after being vaccinated. It's just...
That is just not true.
A recent publication, actually, they studied this claim because they were like, oh, I don't know, maybe that... No. They published their studies of sudden cardiac death in young athletes over the past 20 years. They reviewed records from the NCAA, the Parent Heart Watch database, the National Center for Catastrophic Sports Injury Research. They studied insurance claims. And over 20 years, there were 1,102 deaths in these student athletes, with sudden cardiac death being the cause in 143 cases. 10 of these athletes had congenital anomalies of coronary arteries, 8 had myocarditis, and all but 1 case happened before the pandemic. It was unrelated to COVID-19 infection or vaccination. The reason I say all that is because this is a hoax. That's not real.
1000%. Yeah. And she's claiming big things. She is saying very big,
real big things.
Yeah.
So she goes on to be like, it's really difficult for me to share this information. I've been afraid of public scorn. And then she goes on to say, I believe that vaccinations are a personal decision. I've undoubtedly seen the public good that results from eradicating communicable diseases. Have you?
Mm-hmm.
Do you enjoy being a human on Earth? I cannot argue the past benefits that humanity has reaped from protecting public health. I share this info with a heavy heart. Anyways, so I simply said...
Ashley engaged as she should.
I said, woof. Some things you should probably just keep to yourself. If it caused a heavy heart to say it out loud, maybe it's something you didn't need to say at all. Well, Anjali, in my 5 seconds of fame here, did respond. She said, "Thank goodness I don't need your approval." Then she said, "For the record, my heavy heart is for not sharing it sooner, but thanks for your supportive words."
I loved the, thank goodness I don't need your support. And I was like, yeah.
And I'm certainly not going to give it. So I said, "I'm afraid the only approval you're going to get is from a community of people actively working to destroy the human race. So if that is the goal of the beings that you speak to, they're killing it." She came back and said, "Oh, my VA doctors were wrong, huh? I should have taken the vaccine because you know better than they do, blah, 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 blah." So I came back and I said, "Listen, my criticism is not regarding your personal decision to not take the vaccine because aliens told you it would kill you.
Right.
My criticism is your decision years later
Years after this happened.
to bring that information to a public platform when an anti-vax psychopath is about to become the United States Health Secretary. What are you doing?"
I thought your response was so good because it was, you weren't even negating what she was trying to say. Like, that's what I loved, is like you were still putting her down in her crazy that she was saying, but you were like, homegirl, if you were saying that aliens told you not to take the vaccine,
Keep it to yourself.
okay, we're here for it. We've been trying to support you. We just did a podcast episode on you, bitch.
We just talked about you on our show.
It was like, Anjali, like, we are trying to support you in your alien journey. But the fact that you are bringing this up at the worst fucking time, when like this happened years ago, you're saying, why are you bringing this up now when like we are in a very dangerous political climate and just climate in general, where it's just like, what the fuck? Like, why are you bringing this up so late? So that's why I loved how you worded it, because it was like, I hear you. I hear you in your alien chatter, but you're saying it at the wrong time.
I went to like the other replies, and some people were on my side that were like making, jokes at her expense. But like the next one down is, "My younger brother lived in a state where the vaccine and the boosters were mandatory for his job. He ended up dying. I didn't get the shot and I'm still here."
Okay.
And that's funny because then later you find out in a conversation that he died of lung cancer. Okay, well, that's not COVID.
Like, nothing connected. Yeah.
Or that's not the vaccine. Another one, I know people who have been seriously harmed after receiving it. Like, so basically, I said to her, the last thing I said was, "Look at your replies. Do you believe you contributed to the greater good with this disclosure? Or do you think that you maybe added fuel to an already dangerous fire?" She did not respond to any more of my tweets. So that's where we are with Anjali.
We just had to add this in because the timing was hilarious. I know.
I have followed
like,
her
Ashley,
for years. We have never had any correspondence.
And here is
then
this
2
Twitter
days
beef.
after we record an
But
episode about her, we get into
I'm
a
kind of
fucking
here
beef.
for it. And I feel like this is also showing you, listener, beautiful weirdos, who we are as like vulnerable, open people. Is like, I did this story on her and I stand by it because I do think her alien story is interesting, fascinating. Yeah. And it's sort of like, I don't fully know what happened to her or what she's saying, but we can still disagree with her on these other parts and hold her accountable.
Yeah.
For these things that she's saying. And Ashley is fucking doing it.
Listen.
Look at us being complicated.
Complicated and messy. One last thing. Greg Newkirk liked all of my tweets.
Yeah, he did. That's the best part.
Greg Newkirk, who is now a Twitter lurker completely. He has like completely just been like, "I'm done with Twitter. I'm not participating anymore, but I am going to show you that I'm still around and I approve of this message."
Which I said to Ashley, I was like, proves that you can be a cave alien supporting person and not be an anti-vaxxer.
And you don't have to fall for every conspiracy.
Justine brought that up as like, oh, is Anjali like in the same vein as Hellier and like caves? And
No,
I
but
was sort of
yes.
like, no, but yes, because like we were talking about like caves and aliens, but it was sort of like, yeah, you can believe in cave aliens and be a normal person.
And still believe in science. Anyways, we just wanted to share that with you guys. Thank you. Get back to the episode. Enjoy.
Cave aliens.
One of the questions I wanted to ask though, Justine, because
Yes.
over the last week, well, technically over the last like several months, but the last week has been intense. We can't seem to keep planes in the sky in the United States.
Seems that
I
way.
have been going crazy over that. There have been plane crashes left and right.
Yep.
Now,
It's pretty wild.
what about Canada? Have you guys had trouble keeping planes in the sky?
I mean,
Have you had a lot of reports of crashes?
I don't think
Okay.
so. Not that are on my radar, and that might be me just missing things because the U.S. news is dominating the news cycle
Sure.
right now.
Weird.
I have not, I've not noted anything.
Okay. Well, we can't keep shit in the sky right now.
No,
and
I've been like blown away by like even stories that like were small and didn't make news. There was a plane that went down over a freeway in Texas in December that I just heard about because now my algorithm on TikTok is bringing all these plane stories up. And I'm like, what's happening?
there was a big jet in Alaska too.
And first it was the drones.
Yeah, and then the
fucking
drones. So I'm like, what's up?
I think some of those reports, there were reports in Canada of drones as well, like they were breaching the border, but I don't think planes, not as far as I know.
We focus on the New Jersey drones because there were so many of them, but
Yeah.
it's not just New Jersey. There have been drones sighted in Illinois. There were drone sightings in Illinois. There were drone sightings in Wisconsin. There have been drone sightings, in several states of these drones, and the government not telling us what they are or what they're doing.
Once again,
just saying like, don't worry about it, which it's like
fine.
Okay.
No, can we not worry? We were worried. We're worried watching it.
Yeah. What are we? It's like, it's not the enemy. Okay. Well, then who is it? Because here's the thing. It's not the enemy. Okay. Is it you? Because you're technically the enemy half the time.
Yeah.
So
Right?
that doesn't make me more comfortable. But I have a theory potentially that we're being grounded.
I mean,
they're like, get out of the skies. You're in trouble. You stay down there.
We should be grounded at this point.
We're being grounded. And I wouldn't be surprised if this continues to happen to the point where, well, and also we all know some shit's going on with the FAA. There's problems, obviously. But these crashes are so strange.
They're so strange.
And it's all at once.
And it's all happening at once. And it's happening with the drones. And it's like, what's happening in our skies that something is like, you can't fly anymore. Guess what?
I know.
We're taking this away from you because you're irresponsible.
You're shut down. And if you're saying there was a crash in December, when did the drones start?
That's true. When was that?
Got to be December, November.
I was going to say it was end of the
right?
year.
It was like the very end of the year.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Most of the drone sightings took place near bodies of water. And
I was going to say it's like Great Lakes. Yeah, near the ocean.
Okay. For years, I've been like, I don't think there's a base in our ocean. I just think that maybe there's portals in our ocean. And that's why they come from the ocean because they're coming in and out of these portals. I'm changing my mind. I think they're in the ocean.
Ooh.
You think the base is in the ocean?
I think that they are in our ocean.
Do you think that's one race?
That's the thing, though. Like, I think potentially, we call them extraterrestrials. They really, truly might be terrestrial.
Yeah.
They really, truly might be a civilization that lives on our planet that we don't know about. And the more I learn about the ocean, the more I'm convinced that like, oh, that's not crazy. Because that seemed crazy to me. Like, we would know if there was a civilization that lived on our planet.
No, we wouldn't.
We would not.
We don't know shit about the ocean.
No way.
So, like, absolutely, we don't know.
We wouldn't. So I just read this book. It's nonfiction. It's a sci-fi book. It's one of my favorite sci-fi writers of all time, John Wyndham. And he wrote this book, The Kraken Wakes. I'm scared. So the book essentially chronicles the years of this alien invasion wherein the extraterrestrials come down into our oceans and begin to terraform the planet from deep under the sea.
Mm-hmm.
And they start to warm our oceans to the point of melting the ice in the Arctic and essentially flooding the planet to create a full water planet to live on. And this book was written in 1953, which is like, oh my God, how did he know we were going to see all these things coming out of the
How did he
ocean?
know?
But he knew.
But aside from the correlation of like the sightings over the oceans, there's also the fact that our oceans are heating up. I just learned, I didn't know this, last year, the world's largest iceberg, which has been anchored to the seafloor since it fell off the ice shelf in 1986, is now floating free and has the potential to hit South Georgia and poses a huge threat to like local wildlife. So like literally things that have happened in this book that he wrote in 1953 are happening now. Like icebergs are
It's
coming
happening.
free.
Yeah, and it's so sad.
It is sad.
But then I also watched this new documentary series. It's produced by TMZ. It's called UFO Revolution. I feel like TMZ could cause a huge eye roll, and it is a little over the top, as all TMZ productions are, but it does involve real work in the world of UAPs and interviews with like real people involved in disclosure projects. But anyways, I was watching this documentary and they were discussing the theory and potential for extraterrestrials or ultra-terrestrials to already be living here, potentially under the sea. And one of them brought up the fact that our planet is essentially a water planet. We don't consider it to be a water planet because we exist on the land,
Right.
but our planet is 75% covered in
It is
water,
very much water.
and 97% of that water is saltwater ocean.
Mm-hmm.
And 80% of those oceans are unexplored.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were to see this planet as a potential planet to live on, a water-based organism makes more sense
Yeah,
than a land-based organism.
totally.
Very true.
Oops, never thought of it that way. I also like I said, the more I study the ocean, the more I'm like, they're fucking in there, because scientists estimate there are maybe 2 to 8 million, possibly as many as
Lauren.
10 million species of animal living in the sea, but we've only cataloged 242,000.
That's why you won't ever
creatures
catch
in the
me
ocean.
touching the ocean again. I hate that.
Yeah, I'd go up to like
It's
my
the
knees.
most
That's it.
terrifying
No more.
place in the world. Like, who knows what's down there besides the Kraken? There's more.
I feel like, I don't know if it was on here that you covered a battleship that was attacked by,
Yup.
it was like 150
Yup.
'Twas
foot
us.
Kraken. 'Twas
The
you?
USS Philadelphia?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they, they don't have proof besides the marks
Mhm.
in the hull, but
It's
it's
there.
there.
But there are marks in the hull.
There are teeth marks.
I hate it.
If something that big can totally exist through, like, without our knowledge, it's just, I mean, I'm going to pass out. They're down there.
It does seem like that could be where the base is, and it's almost like the caves
It does make sense.
are more where the portal and where they're like having their meetings apparently in the Mojave Desert.
Apparently.
That seemed like a conference. She saw every type over there. Like it was the convention.
I wonder if that was what we call the Galactic Federation. Because, some people believe in the Galactic Federation, which is supposedly the UN, the United Nations of the universe.
Right.
Mhm.
And supposedly there are human beings or representatives that represent human beings. We're just not privy to it.
I want to know who those people are.
Is it Anjali?
What are their prerequisites?
Is it Anjali?
I guess, right?
Yeah. And like, do they meet physically or do they meet consciously? Like, like in dreams? Like, what if we all visit the Galactic Federation in our dreams?
Right.
What if that's what dreaming is? We still don't know what dreams are.
Ooh.
I don't know. Here's the deal. Have we answered any questions while recording this episode?
No.
No.
That everything
Yes.
is possible.
I was like, I feel like
I
we've
think
still introduced like new theories and we're putting new information out there, but yeah, no solving.
All we have proved is that there are so many possibilities And I don't know which one's scariest.
I know, they're all scary and mysterious and like, yeah, all of the unknown is very scary. But yeah, there are so many possibilities of how they are here, how they're contacting us. I don't know what's right, but I know that caves and oceans really got some stuff going on.
Avoid.
Avoid. I think, though, something that we can take from everything that we know about them, every experience we've had, every point of contact we've had, the one thing that I think we can rule out is like an Independence Day scenario.
Yes.
Yes.
That's just for the movies.
That would have happened already.
I don't think it's going to happen. I think that life is so precious in the known universe that nothing exists that would wipe out it, just a livable planet, even if it was the species. Like maybe humans get wiped out, but I don't think anything would
Destroy the planet. Yeah.
No, especially when it can be used.
It's like they would want our resources. They'd get rid of us, maybe, but
yeah.
Yeah. It seems like that's why they're steering, or that theory's been brought up, that they're steering things away from self-destruction, right? Trying to help or stop or veer it off course.
Yeah, there's so many themes in people's stories of like they're trying to like help us save our planet because they are using it too and they want to help us, but we're dum-dums and we keep making it worse.
Yeah.
Especially if they're living here already.
It's their home. Or if they are ultra-dimensional and they are here, but they're on another plane, what we do to this dimension can also negatively affect their dimension.
Totally.
Like if we blow up...
That's true.
If we set off an atomic bomb in our dimension, we don't know. It could have been, if it's interdimensional, if it's different dimensions.
Could affect them, yeah.
We set off the atomic bomb, we kill, however many Japanese people, but we also killed however many of their beings. And now they're like, oh shit, guess what? We're going to prove to you that we have power to turn off your nuclear systems, which they have done. UFOs have turned off nukes.
It's so crazy.
You can't do this. It affects us somehow.
Oh my God.
Yep.
I know, sorry to leave you guys with that one. I know we've talked about that before, but
we always end on darkness.
I mean, at least someone's policing these things.
Yeah. I feel way more comfortable with their hand on the button.
Correct.
Than our potentially our current administration's hand on
Even
the button.
The last administration was making me real nervous. It's like I don't trust any of those fools.
Any human administration.
Yeah, I'd rather have their finger on the button.
Yeah, like men are weak, right?
I trust them.
Yeah, we can trust in them a little.
Men are trash. Yep.
Well, we didn't answer anything, but that's okay. That's all the time we have this week for Keep It Weird. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and a very huge, enormous, special thank you to our very special guest today, Justine Binx. You rule.
Oh, thank you guys. Thanks for having
you rule.
me.
This is a long time coming.
Seriously,
I actually wanted to have you on.
I was going to say.
Seasons ago, just randomly, I think we were messaging back and forth, and I was like, we should have Justine on. So.
It's like contest aside,
Aww.
You were meant to be on here.
You were meant to be on the show.
Well, thank you. I feel very honored. And can I say thank you from all the listeners to you guys? Oh. We appreciate you.
Of course. Yeah.
We love to do it.
If we didn't have this show, we'd be dead. So we need it as much as you do. Before we leave, though, do you want to hit us with your socials? Do you have anything to plug?
I do. So my own personal social is at Justine Binx. I'm the only one, so you can follow me there. And my little witchy business with my friends Elise and Ashley, it's at cauldron.and.creation.
Perfect.
And you can find all of our stuff there. So we do tarot readings. We also have our Adopt a Ghost program where you can adopt a cute little ghostie to take home. Cute. And yeah, we also make candles, spell jars, everything like that. So yeah, you can pay attention to us there. We post all the time.
Love it.
And we repost your stuff sometimes too, because we love cauldrons.
Yes, you do.
Because it's fabulous.
Many thanks.
You can follow us at Keep It Weirdcast. You can join our Patreon for 2 extra episodes every single month at patreon.com/keepitweirdpodcast. And you could check out our YouTube if you're not already watching us there at youtube.com/keepitweirdpodcast. I think we should end the episode by asking the Acid Book if they can give us any more information
Acid book.
on the strange sights in our skies.
We love the Acid Book.
We do.
We've had some fun with our bibliomancy in the Acid
I
Book.
fucking love this book. Here's the thing. Acid Book, I feel like I always have to remind people, is Be Here Now by Ram Dass, who was a very spiritual, is a very spiritual man. Yeah, he might have been on acid when he wrote it. Yeah, maybe.
But as we've said, maybe that opened some doors.
Can you tell by the weirdness? But maybe it opened some portals to learn new information. So I'm just going to randomly flip to a page, and I'm going to see if we can. I'm not even going to ask a specific question.
Just feel like alien, otherworldly vibes.
Oh, well, all right. Sure, this could be it. Let's see.
No, I didn't love that response, but
There's a lot of yin and yangs, which I feel like is
hippies create police, police create hippies. Oh.
Interesting.
It says hippies create police, police create hippies. I think that's fair. That's a fair assessment. If you're in polarity, you're creating polar opposites. You can only protest effectively when you love the person whose ideas you are protesting against as much as you love yourself. Love has to spring spontaneously from within, and it is in no way amenable to any form of inner or outer force. Love and coercion can never go together. But though love cannot be forced on anyone, it can be awakened in him through love itself. Love is essentially self-communicative. Those who do not have it catch it from those who have it. True love is unconquerable and irresistible, and it goes on gathering power and spreading itself until eventually it transforms everyone whom it touches. Okay, we literally talked about
Pure
love and these beings being
wow, guys.
pure
that was
love.
Anjali's like entire message was like that. It's love. That is what they are trying to spread.
Justine, here's the tattoo on your wrist.
Oh my god.
It's an infinity symbol.
So that's crazy. And then also
That's wild.
polarity. What was the quote? That also hit at the beginning.
In polarity, you're creating polar opposites.
Because we are definitely polarized.
Yeah, I was like, every time I'm like talking to a friend about politics and going down the rabbit hole and getting nowhere, it's always like, it just sucks that we are so divided. Like, it is just the most divided we've ever been on every topic ever. And like, that has been the constant conversation, is how polarized it is. So that's like, that hit, the infinity tattoo, Anjali's talk of like love being everything, and she communicates through love to these higher beings. That's crazy.
And also how we need love and empathy more than anything right now.
Yeah.
That is something that should unite.
It should. Yeah.
This is quite a powerful message. And also, FYI, is that a UFO or is it just me?
It looks like
that looks like a
to me.
UFO.
Wowzers, Bowsers. Okay, thank you so much, universe, for that message. I think that that's something actually Lauren and I talked about at the end of last year, especially after talking to Amy Goldenberg. Like, bringing the light and love, trying to spread that over doom and gloom.
Yep.
As hard as that is sometimes.
Yeah.
I think that we should go into 2025 being as loving to everything as possible and just see what it creates.
It's easy to get sucked up in the darkness, but spread the light and love instead.
Yeah, love's a good form of rebellion.
Yes, agreed. All right, that's a great way to end the show. Thank you guys so much.
Well, thank you.
Until next time, keep
Keep
it
weird.